Gentlemen, for the first time, it seems like forever, Bob, I'll start with you. The Celtics lost back-to-back games and on the brink of elimination right now, it seems that they've lost their soul.
Well, they got used to a way of living and they were able to get away with it. And I'm sure that at least subconsciously they were comfortable and figured, well, okay, this is one more example. We'll be fine. I mean, we'll see. They're playing a better team. They're playing a team with to borrow a phrase from Rudy Tomjanovich, the heart of a champion. They got a core group that hasn't, as we like to say, been there before, know what it takes, and know what everything means. So if you can knock these guys out, I know they're not the defending champions, we know, but look what they've come from too, the Warriors. They had to suffer the ignominy with all the injuries of being one of the worst teams in the league for a period of time. And I don't think that doesn't, drive them too, the rise up from the ashes kind of thing, So anyway, as far as the Celtics themselves are concerned, hey, they got to learn how to get the job done. The job isn't finished. And I'm less confident. I was very confident after game 3, very confident. I said categorically, the only way they're going to lose this series is if they beat themselves, i.e. cut down the turnovers. And it turned, they were a factor in game 5. It wasn't the only factor though. The free throw shooting, cost them enormously in that game. And that's something new. I trust that's a, aberration that we're not going to be looking at that again. Anyway, this is a learning process for the Celtics, and it's a revisiting, it's a process for the Warriors, with one major personnel exception. And now we turn to our friend here, Mr. Goodman, the president of the Andrew Wiggins fan club, and give him the floor.
Well, listen, I've seen him for too long, and as I've said, I've seen him play to the level of his competition way too many times, and I've never trusted Andrew Wiggins. But what I said was, when he was acquired in the deal for D'Angelo Russell, this is the best thing for Andrew Wiggins. It's the best thing for any player to end up in Golden State. I said about LaMelo Ball when Golden State had a high pick, is if LaMelo Ball can just end up in Golden State and learn under Steph Curry. Well, the same thing can be said about Andrew Wiggins. He can learn from whether it's the toughness and defensive Draymond or the culture of Golden State and Steve Kerr and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and how to be a professional. Andrew Wiggins did not guard guys early in his career. Got paid $30 million a year after he hadn't guarded. So in his mind, he's thinking, why do I have to defend? Well, but he could always be an elite defender. I never saw it. I never really saw it. At times at AU ball, at times at Kansas. This is a kid who scored 4 points in their second round loss at Kansas to Stanford. He was 1 for 6. He scored 4 points. So don't tell me again that we all saw this coming with Andrew Wiggins, because we did not. This environment, this culture has saved Andrew Wiggins' career in terms of, again, being a winning player, being a guy that defends at a high level consistently, a guy that plays hard on a consistent basis. This has saved Andrew Wiggins' career from going from a empty numbers losing player in Minnesota to now a culture guy and a winning player for Golden State.
Here's a former number 1 on his third team, and still relatively young. And oh no, this is a vindication. But good. Hey, and by the way, good for him.
He's a sweet kid.
Good for him.
He's a super sweet kid who the big concern was, is he tough enough? Does he want it enough?
Yeah,
is he a killer? And I'm still not sure he's any of those, but he showed that he was plenty tough enough these last couple games on the glass.
Yeah, no, he literally outplayed Tatum in game 5. Outplayed him, and it was head to head at times. And so I give him, and then that was a huge factor. And imagine doing it when they most needed it, right, when Steph is having the oddest, arguably the oddest game of his entire
You
playoff.
knew he was going to have one of those. I mean, every game he couldn't come out making shots. You knew he was going to have an off game at some point, Gary.
But was that Steph or was that the defense?
No, I give No, I think it's mostly Steph. I mean,
Right, me too.
I mean,
it's a combination.
It's always a combination,
Right.
but I wouldn't go any harder than 40-60 in terms of the defense, and
Right.
as opposed to he just had an awful night. By the way, we should establish the over under on threes for Steph in Game 6. I say 5 is the over under.
Yeah, I'll take the over there. I'll take the.
Yeah.
He was just missing badly. He was missing
Yeah.
badly early, and that's where I'll say, Gary, like when people say, "Well, was it the defense?" Sure, the defense can be better, but ultimately, it's not like defense really affects Steph a lot of times. He makes these shots that it doesn't matter if he's got a hand in his face. It doesn't matter if they get up in him. He can still shoot from 35 feet. So I feel like if Steph is on, he's on, and there's not much you can do about it. If he's not, it's one of those kind of aberration games.
Let's talk about Steph, the player in general. I hope that people are starting to understand what a wonderful all-around player he is. I mean, first of all, even in the midst of this game, he was a factor. His passing, his creating situations for other people was at the top level. There was a game he had a 10 rebound game when you weren't looking, by the way, and he is consummate offensive threat. I mean, he doesn't have to score to he proved that to be a factor. And I just hope he gets recognized. I think people should be recognizing that he's an extraordinary talent. And so when this one of the discussions is where is he as he's moving up on the list in the all-time list. He's very much in the discussion, the top 10 all-time player.
All right, so here's my question to you: Duncan, Kobe, Steph. If Steph wins this, if he wins this and gets his fourth, where does that put him over either of those guys, in your opinion, Bob?
That's 7, 8. It's right. It's interesting because those are the two guys that in my pecking order that are, among the unarguable 8 right now, and 7 and 8 are Duncan and Kobe, and so yeah, 5, 6, 8, 9, I guess, yeah, because
8, 9, right?
Yeah, because 8, 9, because my top 5, I have the 3 centers. I have to have the 3 centers, and then I've got Michael and LeBron. That's 5. Magic and Larry is 6, 7.
Right.
Duncan 8, Kobe 9. Now we got 9. So he's got and I'm not budging on any of those 9. So there's your 9. And now it's
where's Oscar? Where's Oscar?
Now the next tier, Oscar. I know I Oscar and Jury, and don't forget, I always try to remind people Havlicek was every bit as good as Oscar and Jury. In the last 5 years of his career, he was better. Anyway, this is going to be, if he wins a championship, and again after with the gap, it's going to be hard to. It's going to be a great argument.
Aren't too many people though? Like, okay, does he have to win the NBA? He's going to win the Finals MVP if they win it. So it's at this point. I guess Wiggins, you could maybe make a case.
No way. They'll give it to Steph because of that.
They're going to give it to Steph
because of the 43-point game.
Right. So Steph will finally get that one that I really feel like we talked about this is irrelevant anyway for the most part. These NBA Finals MVPs, but he gets it. He gets it off his back, and then people can't cry and whine about him not having one. Yeah. But I mean, the numbers still, Duncan was a 3-time Finals MVP. Both Duncan and Kobe won 5 titles. Now, Steph isn't done. He could win another one now. There's nothing that says they can't run this thing back.
Hey, listen, and Weissman finally makes an appearance next year.
Right.
And what and that really changes.
Here's the thing, Duncan. Here's the differentiator for me. Obviously, Steph, the greatest shooter of all time. Tim Duncan was a hell of a defensive player.
Oh yes,
that's the difference for me. I would still have Duncan marginally ahead of Steph, and Kobe. I don't, Kobe. I fight with myself on this on the whole Kobe thing to me because again. He was so much fun to watch and he captivated kind of a generation because of how he played. Now Steph has too, just doing it completely differently.
He's the most popular player in the league right now. Popular. I mean, but among the people, as I kidding, we wrote the column 3 months ago. He's ruined basketball. And what I mean by that is he's influence. He is, and here's an interesting thing. Now, does this factor into anyone's consideration when we're making these lists? Okay, he's the most influential player of the 21st century. Influential.
No doubt. No,
because he is completely glamorized the three at a level that it did not have. He has glamorized the three and more than any individual since the institution of the rule. And that's the fact. And means he's being imitated by the youth of America, and Canada, and probably Spain and Italy and Nigeria. It doesn't matter, wherever basketball is played. He's the symbol. He is the human embodiment of the 3-point shot. Is Steph Curry? That's influence. I mean, it's one of the handful of most influential players in the history of the game. I mean, I have my own list. Russell, what he meant to the block shot and made it an art form and got people thinking about how to utilize that. And Elgin Baylor, who invented modern individual basketball moves that did not exist before Elgin Baylor, that everybody just does routinely now, but they didn't exist before Elgin Baylor. And then you got a big gap in terms of influence till we get to Steph Curry. We've had great players, of course. Michael's a great player, but how do you imitate that? And Kobe was the closest thing to Michael, and Magic. Now there's one, but he hasn't been. But we haven't had no one's ever been Magic at 6'9". We haven't had that level of point guard. That type of guard. So Magic stands apart. But this guy.
What about this, guys? What about this? And I know it's kind of a different question on this, but if you're going to pay money, because we don't pay money generally for watching games. We've been fortunate that we get paid to watch games. But this is kind of how I look at it sometimes. Like, for me, the one guy right now in the NBA and the one guy for the last few years, even over LeBron, that I would pay money, I would take, and I did it. I actually did it this year with my daughter. I paid a decent amount of money to watch Steph Curry play.
Oh, sure, sure. Well, how about this, Jeff? I mean, take a look. I understand what Bob's saying. When you take a look at Tim Duncan, the big fundamental, I think he made Pop a Hall of Fame coach because he set the tone for the room, and you had to go through Tim Duncan. So I think that Tim Duncan is a more valuable player than Steph Curry. But who would I pay to see?
Right. It's easy.
Steph.
Well,
Steph.
Well,
of course.
The nickname is so classic. I don't know who gave it to him. Duncan.
Oh, fundamental. Yeah, the big fundamental.
Right. Right. He was a fundamental, tremendously sound and efficient basketball player at both ends of the floor, as Jeff points out. Right. I mean, and so yeah.
Would you pay to see Steph or Magic?
Oh, yeah, I want the threes.
Money? Who are you paying money to see, Steph or Magic, in their heyday? Don't take into account that we haven't seen Magic play for years now.
It was Magic coming down the court on that fast break and that look away pass and that. I may have to, I wouldn't mind seeing that again. I wouldn't mind seeing Magic with Worthy and Cooper flanking him and I'm a little partial there. And no, that's no.
You're partial because you don't like the three. You don't like the threes.
That's to me. That's to me. You want steak or lobster. It's no. It's.
Well, that's the thing. MJ, LeBron, Bird, Magic, Steph, are Kobe. Probably 6 guys that you would pay money to see.
Right. Well, here's the thing about Magic, to Bob's point. I love the three. I mean, I love the dagger of the three. To me, being a movie guy and a film guy, the drama of it all. How, to Bob Bryant, is a movie connoisseur, it's page 90, Bob, all is lost, right? You need the big moment. And here comes Steph, and he nails the three from half court, right? Yeah. It's the dagger. The bad guy's dead. Boom, game over, roll the credits. But I missed the fast break. There's nothing more beautiful in basketball, from the rebound to the outlet to filling the lanes, when the ball doesn't touch the floor. The ball doesn't touch the floor. And the Lakers did that better than anybody. I'm sorry, even better than the 60 Celtics.
No,
the Lakers, that's showtime. I got it. I would kill to see that fast break again.
Because of Magic.
Because of Magic.
Right.
So I mean, but we got to get to Tatum here, fellas.
I want to tell you one.
Go ahead.
You open the door. I'm going to tell one little story.
Go ahead.
Okay. The most amazing fast break I ever saw in my life. One specific fast break. The Celtics are playing the Warriors in Oakland in 1972 in December, the year they won the 68 games. And Nate Thurman drives the left baseline and Cowens goes up and blocks the shot with two hands. Okay, he cups it with two hands. Before he hits the floor, he flings an outlet pass to Havlicek, who then flings a pass to JoJo, who lays it in at the other end. The last time the ball hit the floor was Thurman's last dribble.
That's amazing.
And I've never seen a play like that again.
I love it. I love that
years.
stuff.
And you may never see a play like that again.
Now,
Yeah,
they lost that game on that road trip. They were 5-2 on that road trip, and that's one of the losses. In fact, I didn't even know the score. It's 115, 112.
Of course you do, Bob, because you remember everything. To Tatum, Bob, Jeff Goodman has kind of, Goodman, he knows people. And he's kind of been sniffing around. And I texted him the other night, and I said, is Tatum hurt? We'll get to Jeff in a minute, but what do you think? Is he hurt?
That hasn't crossed my mind too much watching what's going on necessarily. I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know if he is. I mean, but that's not something that crossed my mind. I don't know what, led you to that, what particular play or lack of whatever he's doing, I mean,
So what's going on with him?
Well, I think he's under a lot of pressure to produce. This is a final exam. They've had a lot of exams. This is the final exam, and it's a culmination of a year and a process. The process, 5-year process for him. The year and the accolades that he's gained, and he wanted to be first team all. He was angry last year. He thought he was overlooked, and this year he got his reward. He was first team all league. But and he's answered the test in the first two series, the first 3 series, very well. And he held his own and outplayed Antetokounmpo. He outplayed Jimmy Butler. And now it's these guys. I think it's a lot on him. And, that's all. It's a final exam. He's got to do it. That's all.
Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's not Steph Curry yet. On his best day, he's as good, if not better than Steph Curry. But is he as consistent as Steph or some of these other guys yet? No. And, as Bob said, like Steph has already done this. He's already done it. This team has done it. Yes, he has been dealing with a wrist injury for the better part of the second part of the season, but that's no excuse because he's had 40-point games.
That's 46-point game.
Right. So certain nights, I'm sure it bothers him more than others, but that's not an excuse, and he hasn't used it at all. I think part of the deal for him is still, he's gotten so much praise over the second half of the year for making the right play. Mm-hmm. Right. That's what he's done. He's trusted his teammates. Yes. He's done. Remember, all we did was crucify him for being selfish and taking step back threes at the end of games when he should have made the right pass and he didn't make the 3 or whatever. So he's done the right thing. And now he gets kind of vilified when he's not selfish enough. So in his mind, I'm sure he's going through it of like, well, what the hell can I do to make everybody happy? Jason, you can't make everybody happy. Number one, you can't, unless you win every game, you're not going to make everybody happy right now. Make the right play. But yes, at times you've got to channel your inner Kobe, and you're not Kobe, and you don't have that mentality, but you try to get a little bit more every year so that you can be a little bit more of an MFer when it matters at the end of games.
Yeah. I want to interject here real quick, Bob, because I think, and I'm sure in your experience, you've seen it. To me, it's knowing when to step on the gas, and he doesn't know it yet. And I think that's what, like Steph knows when I got to take over a game. So I don't think Tatum knows yet because I just think he's learning, and it may cost him the series. I don't know. I don't think he knows when to be a ball hog and when not to be a ball hog. I think it's as simple as that.
This is a reality. Look, when you have the kind of raw skill talent that certain people have, and it's almost being the burden of too much talent. I use this a reference all the time with regard to Michael and LeBron, because they're very much part of this discussion. In my judgment, Michael Jordan, who could get a shot off anytime he wanted, at any time, go to the basket anytime he wanted, individually. did not win a championship until 1991 after being in the league for 7 years.
Right.
And everybody thinks it's because the team wasn't that good enough. Well, my judgment is it was because he couldn't, I call the word calibrate. He needed to figure out the balance, to calibrate when to, just what you were talking about, Gary. That's a hard decision. It's a subtle thing. But it has to do with trust too. Until he trusted his teammates. I keep saying he wouldn't, the passes he made to John Paxson and Steve Kerr that won championships for their jump shots, he would not have made in 1997 or 8. He would not have made that pass. Okay. Now, conversely, LeBron James through 2011, when they screwed up royally against the Mavericks, I resisted at the time the idea that he was shrinking from the ball. Well, he was. It turns out something he got a catharsis out of that. He learned ever since then. He started to figure it out. Just what we're talking about, how to take over factor. It's not easy when you can get a shot anytime you want. But you have to remember that it's a psychology factor with your teammates as well as the technical factor, and it's not easy. And Tatum has the kind of ability, he can take that step back anytime he wants, and he can go to the basket. Usually, it's not easy to balance that and night to night.
24. He's 24. Steph won his first one at 26. Steph is a fringe top 10 player of all time. We're comparing him now to some of the best players, not now, but ever. And I'm not sure he's going to go down as one of the best 10 players ever. I think he'll be a Hall of Famer for sure. I've said that for years.
Yeah.
But, again, the other part, guys, is they don't have other guys around him.
Right.
Who help him get easy baskets.
He helps others get easy baskets. Right.
Who helps him? When do you ever see? Now, maybe part of that is on Jayson Tatum. Maybe part of that is on Ime to draw up something, getting him something easier around like I've said it numerous times through the postseason. When he's got a smaller guy on him, post his ass up. Post him up.
Bingo.
We remember some of the plays earlier in the season, these fadeaways from the baseline from like 12 feet. Like he can do that all day on some of these 6'3" guys that he's, switched up on. But they don't take it. And part of it is him. Part of it is him get in the post and call for the damn ball.
But see, this is back to my argument about the curse of the three. It's not part of the thinking of anybody from the top down. Of course, this isn't the game he's learned to play.
Right.
It's the game back in St. Louis and AAU and right through North Carolina. Right through Duke for the 1 year,
Yep.
Yeah, it's just in the game they've learned to play. By the way, gentlemen, Michael Jeffrey Jordan was 28 years old when he won his first championship.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, think about it. Now, again, Jayson Tatum's not going to be Michael Jordan. We know that. But, again, he's got time, and they're further along this year than anybody thought they'd be.
And that's why I'm worried. See, I'm worried. Not worried, but I'm concerned if they go down, whether they go down at 6 or 7, if they do go down, and that people are going to overreact and get negative and not appreciate.
Of course they are.
What they just went through and how great it was.
Of course they are.
And then wait a minute, folks. Can we rewind back to the middle of January? Can we rewind back to losing the 25-point lead to the Knicks? Can we rewind back to being 3 games under 500 when all this started? Please, huh? No, because I know. Look, Gary, you're right. Yeah, and that's what frustrates me about people. I mean, I'm all right. I'm just saying. I dread this. I dread the aftermath if they don't win this thing.
Okay,
now.
but the one thing we do know, guys, that Brad Stevens is in 1 year. Brad Stevens and Ime Udoka have proved themselves to be the captains of the ship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Brad made the moves. Like Brad took himself out of the gig. He hired the right coach. He made the right deals. So to stay on the positive end, regardless of what happens, Jeff, what Bob's talking about, you're
in the mix. You're in the mix.
They're in the mix. And here's the thing is that I thought going into the season, they were going to be at best the 4th best team in the East. Mm-hmm. Well, that's changed. I mean, that's changed regardless of what happens with Durant, regardless of what happens with Chris Middleton coming back from Milwaukee, with Miami, I mean, the Celtics, you got to, they are contending for the Eastern Conference Championship with Jayson Tatum at 24 for the next 10 years. Now it's up to Brad Stevens to continue to fill in around him, right? I mean, because that's what they've done in Golden State.
The only thing I'll say to that is, yes, they're in the mix, but you could easily go from being the best team in the East to the fourth best team in the East again next year. Easily.
Right. But I thought they would be at best the fourth best team. I mean, obviously it's competitive. There's no doubt. But Brad's got to add players, right?
Well, you're hampered. I mean, you don't have a ton of money here to add you probably have one significant player, and significant doesn't mean Bradley Beal. Significant means like a piece. And the positive now is you might be able to get an older dude who wants to win a title and accept a little bit of a role.
Maybe
on the team.
Like hell, if you had that old
shooter,
if you had that older dude, go ahead. I'm sorry.
They need a guy who can shoot, because here's the problem. The problem has been with Tatum and Brown. Every time they put the ball on the floor, there's guys ready there to swipe it, because they know they don't have, especially Jalen doesn't have a great handle. So if you add a pure shooter that you have to respect, you're going to open up more space for those guys to be able to operate. Which
Bob, to Jeff's point, if they can get a veteran for low money next year as a pure shooter, if they had that veteran now, maybe they win Game 5.
Oh yeah,
in the fourth.
Hell, Game 5 was winnable, obviously.
Totally. That's what I'm saying. It's like if you have your downtown Freddie Brown of 2022, maybe you win that game, Bob.
Well, yeah, if you had Eddie House back, sure. But that kind of guy, I've been screaming for that kind of guy for, obviously we've seen, Peyton Pritchard, is our only answer.
He's fine.
I'm just saying but that's where we are. Right. That's the fact.
Yeah. You're right.
And it's not inconceivable that Peyton Pritchard scores 10 or 12 points that are crucial in a Game 6 victory at home tomorrow night. I wouldn't shock me at all.
You just can't count on him. That's the problem with Peyton Pritchard. And the bottom line, too, and I know everybody was talking about this all year. Well, Peyton Pritchard, he's really good defensively. He's really good. When Jordan Poole sees Peyton Pritchard, his eyes light up, and that's when he's scoring. That's when Jordan Poole is going off.
By the way, I hope that that Jordan Poole has reached his quota of buzzer-beating shots.
Yeah.
I mean, one is okay. He's done this twice.
At Michigan, too. He's done it in Michigan, too.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's done this a bunch.
I mean, I almost fell right out of the chair the other night when he hit that bank that one at the end of the period. That really, and I don't, you know me, I don't believe in momentum, but
that was momentum.
That hurt. That hurt. That had to give the Celtics a down feeling walking back to that huddle.
I want to talk about not necessarily the last game, but I want to get back to Game 5 in the fourth quarter. After the game, Marcus Smart and Derek White were basically saying we're standing around and we're not moving. And then Brown and Tatum and the forwards were saying in the post game, well, we weren't setting up the offense right. So obviously there was some miscommunication. Jeff, I'll start with you on this. Does that concern you? And it was bothersome to me that while Steph was making the key shots that he needed to make, the Celtics offense just totally went in the trash because it looked like the four key guys didn't know what to do.
But he can do that. That's the beauty of having Steph, right? Is everybody else can stand around. There can be nothing going on that possession, and all of a sudden Steph bails you out. Now, the Celtics, the problem with the Celtics is they still tend to revert to their old ways at times, right? Of not moving the ball and settling and taking shots. Jaylen Brown did it last game. Tatum has done it as well, where they'll take dumb. With Jaylen, it was a step back three early in the shot clock at the end of the game in Game 5. And I'm looking like, what are you doing? You can't take those shots. Move the ball, try to get good shots. And they really haven't gotten a lot of like easy, good looks in this series. They've had to really manufacture. So if you're not moving the basketball, you're relying on, again, AAU ball, one-on-one, and they can make them. But you'd rather have obviously uncontested looks, and you get those by moving the basketball.
Well, we know what they're capable of doing. They've shown us some wonderful stretches of basketball the thing is, it's who they're playing now that is different, and that's that. They're good. Talent wise, they are as good or better than.
Did they win? Did they win Game 6, Bob?
I say yes. I'll say yes. I'll say they win Game 6.
Well, then anything can happen in 7, and they know they can win on the road. So if they win 6,
the one thing, they're not fazed by the road at all.
Right.
And
that moment they could be fazed by a Game 7 in the NBA Finals.
That's a different matter.
Oh right. Boy, right?
That's right. That's a different matter.
That would be fun.
But I just wish we could just get inside the head of Vox Populi to say we're having a discussion in the middle of June about the Celtics on the verge of a championship.
Right.
That would have been laughable, not just incomprehensible, laughable 3 months ago. Like, what do you? So please appreciate what's been going on.
Yeah, they could be the Red Sox.
Please, yeah. Who by the way, seems to have figured it out.
Yeah, they're playing better. Okay, final question here, guys. We've made a lot, certainly, of Steve Kerr as a coach over the years, and then now Udoka with this turnaround. Bob, I'll start with you. How much impact on their teams, and I want you to break it down, X's and O's, and then the psychology of it, have these coaches made on their respective clubs? Well,
let's start with the Celtics. Clearly, Emi, from what we gather, since we're not behind closed doors, and if this were 40 years ago, I would have been at practice every day. Well, people don't have that privilege anymore. So we don't know exactly what goes on. People walk in.
Did you go to practice every day, Bob? Were you allowed in practice every day to watch? Like
Absolutely.
How much of it?
I mean, Jeff, he stayed at Paul Westfall's house during
I know, but
entirely.
Well, like they let guys in practice now for 15 minutes.
Watch free throw shooting.
Now, how long were you allowed to be in practice?
Oh, practice. You walked into the gym at an hour before practice, sat down in the locker room, chatted up the guys, chatted up the coach, walked out, watched practice, and then went in with your notebook and then did your work, after. But beforehand, you schmoozed.
What if something happened in practice, Bob? What if somebody got hurt? What if there was an argument? What were the unwritten rules at that point?
Well, that's a good question. It's a good question. I don't honestly remember how we codified it, except that I don't remember too much of that ever happening. I really don't. I can't remember a specific example when some guy went down there and, oh my God, there's a story. It was understandable. You earned their trust. I mean, you did one of the things that you did was by going in with this schmooze thing. And you earned their trust that you proved over time you knew what was reportable and what wasn't. You knew how to file something away and dig it out a month later without attributing it to anybody. But it takes time. It took a year or two to earn the trust, and you have to prove. I say this to kids when I talk to anybody now. You're as a beat person. I don't care what sport you're talking about. I don't care what level you're talking about. College. You're talking about pros. You're a salesperson, and you're selling the product. You're selling is you, and you're selling yourself to the players, the coaches, the administration, and in college, the AD. And so as well as the. And it's how you conduct yourself and how you go about your job. It takes a while to earn that trust. But we were allowed in practice. Yes, I went.
That's unbelievable. I've been allowed in college practice. I remember being in an Illinois practice. Bruce Weber was a coach, and I forget who the player was, went down with an injury. And obviously I didn't report it because I was allowed in as a national guy when he didn't allow.
I knew the place, I knew the place. And so I'd watch a game and I'd see what players called. Then I could watch the defense and see who defended well and who didn't and who knew what the hell they were doing. I knew the plays, it's just an utterly different world, utterly different circumstance that we lived in. Yeah. So anyway, so I got off the thing about we're not behind closed doors. Obviously, Emi's approach, we're told he coaches harder, without being obnoxious, without being Bob Knight, he coaches and holds them, quote, accountable. And I guess even Brad recognized they need a different voice than mine. I don't know if
Brad recognized it, guys. I think this was given to Brad.
Okay.
Again, I still don't believe that this was Brad Stevens all of a sudden going in to management or ownership and saying, hey, guys, you know what? I think it would be better if I become GM and you bring in another coach. Come on.
But they're benefiting from you. Clearly they're benefiting.
Totally.
Whatever it is. And remember this, I said this countless times. Before the season started, I said, I have never in my life in the NBA and watching it up close and personal since 1969, heard a rookie coach was yet to coach a full season game, regular season game, praised universally by the outside world as extensively as Ime Udoka was.
Now you know why, Bob.
Well, I'm saying. No, I'm saying. So I said at the time, I hope the fans here don't think he's going to enter the Garden by walking across the Charles from the Cambridge side, Well, and then, of course, in the middle of January, the thing is, what's the fuss, right? But I've never heard a coach so praised as Ime Udoka was by the outside world. They got the right guy. Well, you're going to love this guy, blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, so now we're seeing it. And now, as far as Steve Kerr's concerned, he's just obviously proven to be the right temperament for those guys. I mean, and I love
both of them. I love both of these guys, Gary. And I've known Kerr forever. Well, not forever, but he went to Arizona. I went to Arizona. So I know Steve fairly well. Go ahead.
He fits a particular profile for the potential of a successful coach in that obviously clearly a bright guy. We know that. They got a very, very bright guy, but a successful player without being a superstar, a player who had success, earned wings, but was an auxiliary player. He was a role player, max. He was a great shooter. That's what he was out there for. He understood his role, and he knows what it's like to sit on the bench and yearn, and he knows what it's like he just understands the full scope of what an NBA player could be, and that's a great niche to occupy if you combine it with the right brain power when you understand how the stars think as well as how the subs think. And when you can find a guy like that, you're very lucky. And he's like the exhibit A of that kind of guy.
Got to have a former player, I think, as a coach these days.
More and more, they seem to think that that's the way to go.
That's where Brad to me early was fine, but then when you don't keep winning, if at some point you're underachieving, I think today's players will look at a former player with a whole lot more respect. Darvin Ham being an example now in LA.
We'll see if Darvin Ham is the next one up in that regard because he fits that playing profile.
I'm not saying it'll always work, but I'm saying when things go awry, I feel like the superstar is going to look at a former player and say, all right, you know what? He wasn't at my level, but at least he played in the NBA, where you're going to look at Brad Stevens and say, he never even played. He never even played. He didn't even play high Division I college.
No, I played at DePaul.
Right. So I think Ime, to answer your question, Gary, I don't even X's and O's. I think Ime has been very good, but that's secondary to me in a lot of ways. That's secondary. You had to get these guys to buy in and play together in order to be able to get to that point where X's and O's even mattered. And now, I would love to chart or to have somebody chart. This would be really, really interesting. How many passes Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum made to one another in the first 50 games and then over that next 50. I would love to see that number.
3-1, whatever.
Right. Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
You know what?
Guys, thank you very much.
If I were Ime, you know what I would do? One of the things I would do prior to Game 6, I would rewind and show them, guys, I just want to show you something. The last 10 seconds of Game 1 against the Nets.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, guys. Yeah. Remember this?
Right.
Okay. I'm just saying. I'm not going to say anything. Just remember this?
Yep.
Hey, Jalen, remember this? Marcus, remember this? Jason, nice cut. Remember this?
Good note to end on. Jeff Goodman, Bob Ryan, thank you very much. We'll talk to you again next week. Again, Ryan Goodman, Tanguay along for the Ride podcast. Gentlemen, enjoy the rest of the series.